Happy New Year. Javas, Happy New Year.
Happy great year, Noella.
What are you expecting this 2026?
Sadly, I did not walk into 2026 with expectations. Mm-hmm. So I am not in this year merely to expect. I think I am in 2026 by the grace of the Almighty, first, to be among the players that will set into motion part of the critical agenda for the year. Mm-hmm. It is my intention to be a key cog within the wheel of governance purpose in this country and possibly beyond. And so I am not a bad watcher in 2026. I am here to be a sentinel for good governance, democracy, and all that comes with it.
Wow, okay. So when we look at Africa today, there's a lot of political shifts, not only by institutions or constitutional battles, but there's a new shift in political culture, public psychology, elite bargains, but also there's a change in the political and power architecture. Political parties are becoming like electro machines, right? We're having a population that is voting less, but they're talking more, they're expressing themselves loudly. And of course, the power of digital activism. And today we are happy to have Javas Bigambo. As he said in that preamble, he's a political and governance expert. Javas, this is DevCom Africa.
Thank you, Noella, and happy to be on DevCom Africa.
Yes.
Because this is actually the kind of platform that Africa needs, the kind of platform that Kenya needs, and even the world. Because without conscientious development communication, without a platform such as DevCom Africa, we'll be missing the boat by the river.
Where are we headed as a continent? There's a lot of shift. There's a young population that is pushing, the continent. And we're wondering, is the continent ready for the young people? Now people become so vocal online. People are not afraid to hold accountable those within the political space. Where are we headed?
I would flip the question.
Yeah.
Because you ask whether the continent is ready for the young people.
Yeah.
But I think I would ask the question, are the young people ready for the future of the continent? Because it's them who should shape that future. When you scour through data and statistics across the continent, there is growing fear that within the next 20 to 30 years, lots of countries in Africa will be ungovernable because of the centrality of the young people on the continent. One, worry about the youth bulge. Two, the place of technology and the utility of technology by the young people on the continent in matters governance. Third, the joblessness on the continent and the fact that the leaders on the continent, whether in government or private sector, are not pumping resources into creating opportunities that will shape that future with the involvement of the young people. If the next 15, 20 years will continue being led in the manner that African countries are being led today, then there will be so much to worry because of the necessary interventions that are lacking for the youth bulge.
Mm-hmm. Please hold your thought, because I like the fire and you're yet to light up our conversation before we come back to the fire, of the discussion. So if you remember, I'll want you to come here. If you remember Javas, and I know we must be in the same age bracket, sisi ni wazee kidogo. There's something that defined storytelling in the typical African culture, where stories of wisdom were shared, stories of heritage. What was that?
You see, Noella, when it comes to the fireplace in many African homes, it was not just a place of warming ourselves. It was a classroom without an ordained teacher. The fireplace was a place for learning, a place for instruction, but also a place for memory. And I think when you look at the symbolism of the fireplace in the African context, particularly in how I was brought up, it is a place of intellectual and historical reverence because of the learning.
Exactly. And I like that because today it's good to have a scholar and expert on the DevCom set, and it will be an honor. This first DevCom podcast episode of 2026 for you to light it up for us.
Let's light this intellectual fire.
The electro fire. I love it.
This intellectual fire is...
Let's see. Javas.
Now I think it...
Okay.
No, fire never goes out when I light it.
Okay. Oh.
It's about skill.
It's a skill. I was a bit worried when you just threw the matchstick.
Let's do it again. Noella, it's the matchstick.
No, it's the positioning. Javas. We used to take an angle growing up on how we did it. There you go. Let's see.
I think, as Obama would say, I'm getting fired up.
I think it's speaking.
It worked.
It worked. Let's see. Sometimes this fire can be a bit tricky.
Fired
you think
up.
it's fired up? Is it peaking? Oh, yeah. I think it's peaking.
Fired up.
Oh, wow. Hey, high five. Sour. Have you
On to
seen?
2026.
Then there's another thing you never missed in an African home, Javas. And DevCom, that's why we call ourselves DevCom Africa. We are trying to reenact our conversations, but also try and create that setting that we used to have. This thing here, the African drum. And today I'll ask you to give us your African beat. You've been talking about fire, you're fired. Let's see how we can translate it into a beat. Go ahead. Okay.
Yes.
Is there an explainer to that aggressive beat?
You see, many times during performance in oral literature, preceding orature,
Yeah.
it was always a call for the attention for the participants gathering before a family leader or before the orature would begin. Or it would also be a sermon that now it's the time for storytelling. And whoever were in their own houses, etc., maybe after dinner, etc., would know that once the drums have sounded, it's time to gather by the fireplace.
Exactly.
It's a call for attention.
Wow. And I love that we're giving the issue of young people on the continent attention. Sorry, I cut you off because I needed you to make us a bit warm. There, it's picking up. And we are just, you're saying you'll flip the question whether the young people are ready to take charge of this continent. But a lot of people have been asking, is the continent ready? And Javas, when you look at agenda, the AU, Agenda 2063, a very key pillar on young people, how they're central to the future of this continent. But even from the AU, are we really giving young people an opportunity to take charge and lead? Let's go to different markets on the continent, whether it's politics, whether it's private sector, whether it's the NGO world, whether it's academia. Are we giving young people the opportunity to lead? How do we lead when you're not being given the opportunity?
Noella, if my opinion was sought, I would tell you without hesitation that I've got a problem with the framing of Agenda 2063 for Africa.
Why?
It was not framed by the young people's involvement, absolute involvement. It was framed in the quarters within halls in Addis, and the critical voices on the continent of the young people, of the intelligentsia, was not summoned to these discussion places or discussion points for purposes of acquiescing to a dream and a vision for Africa being shaped.
Yeah.
And that is why when you look at the Africa Agenda 2063, while it has got a semblance of usefulness, there is no flesh in it. It is merely bones and skin. And that is why even in the implementation or the rollout of Africa's Agenda 2063,
Been a challenge.
it remains, something that is quite elusive. Secondly, when you look at critical organs such as ECOSOC, you realize that while they're engaging the civil society organizations and private sector, still there is need that much needs to be done for purposes of involvement of younger people and civil society, even more in private sector. Third, you realize that the Agenda 2063 is dependent on the agility of the member states of the African of the African Union. But to what extent and how effectively are we seeing the translation of Africa Agenda 2063 being mirrored in the development plans within member states?
Actually, someone who was here before you talked about it being almost a men's club. Everyone is trying to protect their territory. There isn't that trickling down effect. You know, there is a general meeting, people meet, but they retreat back to their nations and do what they want to do.
Now, part of the problem beyond the perception that it's a men's club is that the Agenda 2063 has not originated from bottom up. When you look at Vision 2030 for Kenya, to what extent does it have an interlink with Africa Agenda 2063? And in terms of implementation, where are the railroads for that implementation? In that absence, we are having multiplicity of visions on the continent, each country with their own. And then you get to add the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, all being implemented differently, different purposes, different energy, different financing.
The right hand not talking to the left and the left hand not talking to the
And that's why when you talk about Africa Vision 2063, the question is, whose vision is it?
Yeah. Is it the continent's vision? Is it the head of state's vision?
Noella,
whose
if
vision
you were to
is
ask every third person on the streets of Nairobi today where we are, what is Africa Agenda 2063? If you will find within a square meter 10 people who know it, then you'd call me a liar.
Yeah. And that's the challenge. We create good policies, or at times we create bad policies or plans. But the pillar on awareness, it's like these plans are created for the few. Javas, what is the risk of having a wonderful development agenda, but you're not engaging and not being accountable to the majority who are the people to also be part of the process and also drive that process?
Noella, the danger begins with excluding the people in the central process of developing a vision.
And a lot of institutions are doing that.
A vision is not only spoken down, a vision is shared. When the vision is not shared, then it becomes remote to those who are intended to be beneficiaries of the same. They will not be helpers, they will not be pillars to the implementation of that vision. And that's one of the problems. Secondly, visions are communicated. And communicated effectively. In what ways are we seeing visions on the continent, even if it's Agenda 2063, being communicated on purpose and effectively to the people? And what channels, what methods, and what feedback loops or mechanisms are there in this implementation process or the sharing process of the vision?
Because there's a lot to learn from communities, there's a lot to learn from the people, there's a lot to learn from different stakeholders.
Correct. When you listen to Cameroonian scholar, Professor Achille Mbembe, he speaks to the necessity of heightening planetary consciousness, the issues to do with climate change and the necessary interventions, the issue about appreciating how we are a global village and how we create a loop between the localized perspectives and aspects to the global issues. Today, what has happened in Venezuela is causing worries across the continent because we're a global village. So when we do not have heightened planetary consciousness, then we find ourselves seriously and constantly looking inward, and that is quite limiting. And so I think what is very important for us is the necessity of opening up classrooms so that we get to have classrooms without walls. That every day, every moment should be a learning experience, a sharing experience, a communication in development experience. And if we do that consciously, conscientiously, and in a very timely way, then we shall have political education, which will lead to the which will try to eradicate the political miseducation of the Kenyan voter, of the African voter. Why am I calling it miseducation of the African voter? Today, an ordinary citizen thinks that their role is to go into a booth, a voting booth, cast their vote,
and that's it,
and wait to lament later.
Yes.
The object, the purpose, the merits of determining how to vote and for whom to vote, what they are voting for or against, keeps on eluding the Kenyan voter, the African voter. When it comes to membership to political parties, today, people think that you need to belong to a political party because of your regional extraction or ethnic extraction. Yes. That because you come from a particular tribe, then you need to belong to that party and not any other. And therefore, the place of ideology then gets missed. That in political participation that is effective, ideological factors, multiplicity of ideologies, divisions of ideologies, and appreciating those divisions, and that those divisions should not be the anchors of separation and brutalism, but creating a melting pot of engagement, political pluralism that is purposive, then the African voter gets lost in the haystack of democracy.
But it's said tribalism is our Africanism, Javas, you know. When the fire becomes too hot, we always retreat to our tribal pockets. We want to stand up with a brother, fight for a brother, and so forth. So is it an African spirit also? Because when you single out even different countries on this continent, it's the same thing. You find a tribe, a region moving towards one direction. When governments are formed, majority of people within that government, it will be people from either the tribe or the region where the president, the prime minister comes from. Appointments across. So is it only, yes, there's the element of having that foundation that helps us to have progressive governance, but also there's the African spirit, Javas, and it's a very troublesome spirit.
I think I reject the invitation to look at it as a blanket African spirit that is leading us in the wrong direction. It is because for far too long we have condoned brutalism, we have appreciated and condoned intimidation, we have rejected the sacredness of laws and regulations. We make laws and regulations for cosmetic purposes. That's why even here in Kenya, we have Election Offences Act, Political Parties Act. We have got institutions such as the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, which are supposed to be effective in regulating even the political parties. Yet when we see a political leader inciting people to violence, using language of violence, we fear prosecuting them, wondering what kind of chaos will befall as a nation.
And also if he's a political leader aligned to the powers that be, we fear the repercussions also.
Correct.
Almost a double-edged sword. And you see, it's the foundation that has been set. The African spirit, is it the foundation that we got it wrong? And it continues to haunt us, Javas. And I'm happy that we're even talking about elections. There's that behavior that has been consistent. And now we are having people becoming a bit more aware, a bit fearless. Yes, there's brutality, especially during electioneering year. But we are seeing people now going out and saying, you know what, we're going to die to protect the future of our countries, the future of our continent. What are some of these behavior you think is progressive, and what behavior do you think is
when
regressive?
people are engaging in violence, Noella, they're not trying to protect the future of the continent or the country. They're trying to protect ignorance and safeguard it from eradication. Because, let me tell you, if you want to protect the future of the continent, the future of a country, have opportunities for learning at all levels for all persons. Reduce levels of ignorance. Increase life expectancy. Change our system of education so that you are not going to university or to school to get a job. Because for me, learning and institutions of learning or higher learning are citadels for intellectual development. They are only supposed to be springboards. Yeah. They are not supposed to be the doors for employment. Exactly. Learning and education should only help us to think.
Yeah. Give us knowledge, give us the skill, give us the competency to, yes. Think.
When you say that you went to university or to college and now you don't have a job, then the problem is you. You think you went to school to get a job. You went to school to broaden your intellectual horizons, to create opportunities. Today, people think that unless you have a white-collar job, then you're not doing well in life. Yet, when you go across continental Europe, you've got people who've made fortunes out of agribusiness.
Yes, yes.
So it's not about sitting behind a desk. So reduce ignorance, reduce disease, make sure that institutions of learning are actually institutions of learning, not taking notes and passing exams. Political parties should stop being kiosks so that they are arenas or avenues for political and democratic discourse. That actually political manifestos by parties or coalitions should mean something. Should not just be poetic arguments to win election, but actually arguments that when you win election, then you have to implement what you promised because you are voted into office on the basis of that manifesto.
Is it the reason why a lot of political parties after elections, they actually somehow collapse? They fail to institutionalize completely. Could that be the reason? That what the vision during the campaign trail is totally different when people get into office now, whether it becomes their personal vision. But a lot of them fail. The structures, they become weak. And let's pick our context. Look at ODM, even what has happened. Actually, two things. Post-election, people get into election paths, or they get into office, the agenda changes. If a key member of a political party ceases to exist or takes a backseat, like what is happening with ODM? Look at the noise.
There was wisdom in abundance as to why we, the people, elected to institutionalize political parties, have it entrenched in the constitution, grounded in statute, but also be made a public entity, especially political parties that have got elected officials, even if it's one, and funded by the exchequer through the political parties fund. And that is why a political party should not be run as a sole proprietorship, should not belong to a family. But we are deeply entrenched in that dogmatic politics and praxis, where we think the founder of a political party is the owner of that political party.
Zero internal democracy.
And that's why we are always entangled in the founder's syndrome, which is a political malaise, if you ask me. ODM, Raila Odinga is now dead. May his soul rest in peace. Eternal.
Rest in peace, yes.
The party is still there. The party is still receiving money from the political parties fund. It is a public institution. Nonetheless, the voice of Mama Ida Odinga is very important because she is a member of the party, a high-ranking member. Winnie Odinga's voice is important because she is a politician and a member of ODM. But ODM also has got officials, party leader, chairperson, Secretary General, and all the other, including the directors of elections, executive director, etc. There is a reason why that structure exists, and various organs. Then, therefore, it should be anticipated highly that those organs should play their part in the sustenance or the survival and the perpetuation of the ideals of that party beyond Raila Odinga.
And not even just political parties, Javas. Even look at non-public entities. There's this founder, CEO, MD, obsession that becomes a barrier. Unless someone dies, no one can ascend to the top seat. It has to be, if Javas is the CEO and founder, it has to be Javas' ideas.
The problem is that we value position more than ideas.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that is our Achilles heel.
It is.
We should not value position. Positions are important for direction and leadership, but we should value ideas. And so when we refuse to liberate ourselves, when we fear thinking, because thinking actually is not only a duty, it should be a timeless job.
It is.
When we fear thinking, when we fear sharing and testing ideas, then we become the undertakers of our own survival.
Do you think parties like ANC, CCM, Ghana's NDP, do you think they've done a bit better in terms of continuity?
If at all,
maybe the latest developments.
If they're using brute force to silence dissent, to abduct, to maim and to kill, then that's not the direction and the ideology that we need through political parties on the African continent. The ANC, I think, has done better for a fairly long time.
Same to Ghana's NDC.
They've done better. Even Ghana's NDC has done better. But there is always that moment when the ball is lost because of a sense of entitlement.
Yes.
To safeguard a future, you must be the vanguards of progressive ideals of today and see how you want to occasion the self-correcting of anomalies that are existing within a society.
But the challenge is, Javas, we get people who push for that change. We get people who want better for the populace. But when they get into the office, they tend to do the same thing or do worse. And it's something that keeps agitating now the public. And before it was easy to hold them accountable, whether it's at the ballot. Now a lot of people are moving online. Battles now are being fought online. We're trying to hold leaders accountable online because you will not see them until it's electioneering time, right? And even for institutions that are supposed to hold them accountable, look at the committees in national assemblies. It's becoming another political culture where you're summoned, you don't appear. Why? You're part of government. Why should I? So wars are being taken online. But is it enough to fight online?
It's not enough. Noella, I'll tell you, when we take politics and wear it like biblical Joseph's coat of many colors, that it keeps on changing depending on season and circumstances, then we lose it. Well, Joseph got it right in scripture. We lose it out in the latter-day world. We must embrace consistency and the place of resolve in occasioning change and progress in a society. The other thing is this. The 21st century, Noella, is the age of digital exploration in every sphere of life. Politics, governance processes themselves, service delivery. Today, in Kenya, I think, and we should pat ourselves on the back, far more better than any other country on the African continent. Kenya has in place access to government services in their thousands online. More than majority of African countries, nearly every other African country. So Kenya has embraced technology and the digital space for the better. And I think it's good, but we need to even do better.
Do better, yes.
The other thing is this. The utility of the digital space in enhancing democratic conversations and progression should be recalibrated for purposes of amelioration, making things better, and not perpetuating ill. For instance, when we use the digital space politically to exchange threats and to be avenues for invective online, we are not properly utilizing that space. Yeah. Well, one may argue that there is the freedom of opinion, expression, conscience, etc. But conscience should work for the better. And here in Kenya, in fact, far better than any other country on the African continent, Kenyans have demonstrated that when you use the digital space, governments listen, civil societies listen, private sector listens, the media listen.
Actually, now digital spaces are setting the agenda for newsroom. And of course, it's also by its nature that it can break any news and engage in any live or active discourse and so forth. But the same digital space is also creating almost shortcuts for powers in public and private sector. For instance, manifestos are turning into just emotional messaging, marinating things. Whether it's reports by private sector, they're edited well, they're shared, good infographics. You're given what they want you to see.
Noella, access to news and consumption of the same has been made easier, faster, at the click of the button by way of the enhancement of the digital space. And when you look at how governments are investing in this space and opportunity and sector.
I look at the most powerful person on earth, America. Actually, a lot of things are shared on X.
Correct.
The government is being led from,
Now it's no longer waiting for the signing of the executive order.
And press conferences. You post it online, and that's it. It's global.
And the moment he clicks upload or send,
that's it.
At the click of a button, the entire world receives a message from a president or an influencer, etc.
Borderless timeliness.
But, Noella, where the problem emerges is where we're not using it for the enhancement. Today, predators, sexual predators, are online. They're using it to lure school-going kids and underage children.
And online games.
And even human trafficking. It's taking place on these spaces. As I sit here this afternoon, I am the vice chair and a member of the committee overseeing the implementation of the 10-point agenda and the NADCO report. And part of the 10-point agenda is, this is agenda number 10, constitutionalism and the rule of law and good governance. Noella, we can't be talking about the rule of law when we expect only other people to embrace the rule of law and not others.
It should cut across.
We know that justice is a blindfolded woman. Sees not, should care not, should execute justice fairly.
Yeah.
Now look at it this way. If I cannot be shouting about freedom of expression when I'm using my digital handles to abuse somebody else, to call them unprintable words, and then I want to hang on to the tail of constitutional right to freedom of expression and opinion, come on.
And this cuts across.
It cuts across.
In power and, the public, the voters. And there's so much anger online, Javas, because at times you see what elected leaders tweet. Man, Javas, take people aback.
Now, I agree that when you look at the tweets of some of the leaders, then you are forgiven to imagine whether there is always a bit of reflection before they tweet something or write something on X or on Facebook or even on their IG or even just a short message service, text to someone. So I think there is the place of self-regulation that's important.
Yeah.
But there is also the sacredness of conscientiousness. Do you invite yourself to proper thinking and reflection before you write something that will be consumed by the public? When you come across some posting on social media and the first thing you do is just to forward it, so that it goes viral, yet you are not interrogating the content, then to what extent are your faculties helpful in engaging on those spaces or platforms?
And that, Javas, I don't know whether we'll call it fanatism or also where a lot of young people, not even young, even old people, are in search of that extra coin. Because now, a lot of digital engagement that are supposed to be noble, to set the agenda, to create awareness over very critical, services and many other things. We're in the era of just influencers, people setting the agenda. You're a group, people are just retweeting. Why? Because I subscribe to Java's Bigambo's politics. When I see his tweet, I won't even read. I'll just retweet and like and forward in groups. So is it interconnected with many other factors? Others may be factors out of desperation, as you say, ignorance, then also just fanatism.
There is a possibility of what you are referring to as fanatism, fueling or encouraging someone to just share content without much reflection. But also there are what I call the intra and interclass, intra and interpolitical factors that inform some of these decisions. And that's why when you look at somebody like Karl Marx writing in the former times, the issue of class interests, intra and even inter, the bourgeoisie and the proletariats, and the necessity, as he called in his time, that the proletariats should unite for purposes of furthering their interests, which are being subjugated by the bourgeoisie. But then even within particular class, intra-class conflicts exist and division of ideas and interests. If you are to bring together poor people, you'll realize actually that there is no harmony and agreement within that space of poverty. That even within that intra-class space of the poor people,
there are clusters.
There are clusters, variations, divisions of interests, purpose, and intent.
When outwardly you'll think they should unite because they're the vulnerable group.
Correct.
Exactly.
If you're to bring the bourgeoisie together, there is no uniformity in their interests and
Power
purpose.
games.
Correct.
Yeah.
They want to subjugate each other.
Everyone wants to sit at the top.
Correct. And that is why, Noella, it would take me to the next point. Even as we lament about political parties, even if we lament about the voters in Kenya, on the continent, across the world, politics is driven by interests. We know this. It is Henry Kissinger, the one-time Secretary of State in the US, who said, America does not have permanent friends. It has permanent interests.
Yeah.
Now, if you are to truncate that expression by the late Kissinger, you would realize that factually, in politics,
no permanent friends, no permanent enemies.
It is interests.
Just interests.
Then the pregnant question in the room, what then should be the cross-cutting interest within society that should inform decisions by voters? We can't sit here be lamenting about voters every now and then. Those voters, many of them have gone to school. Many of them are educated. Many of them are business people. They are voters.
Even the non-educated,
Correct.
they have wisdom to make
Correct.
the right decisions.
When somebody walks into a booth and casts their vote for an alleged murderer, that vote counts for that alleged murderer, and it is the decision of that voter. You cannot question it. It is the democratic right of that voter.
Yeah.
For me, I think we need to see how to recalibrate, reshape, and refreshen the ideals of, quote unquote, the African democracy, the ideals and the interests of the African voter, who then should be either educated or educated otherwise. If we don't do that, then we are likely to invite ourselves to a timeless period of lamentations and castigation and counter-castigation that will not take us out of the hole in which we are.
Yeah, to reset because we keep talking about moving the needle forward. But this needle has stayed here because we are not resetting. We are not looking at things from different perspectives. We are not even reinventing with the current times completely.
And that's why I'll tell you. And let's face it, we're in Kenya.
Yeah.
And look at it this way. The other day, His Excellency President William Ruto has talked about the need for Kenya to elevate its development aspirations and become like Singapore.
Now, do you want us to have that conversation of Singapore?
No, but you see, it's an ideological trajectory
Yes.
by a politician.
Yeah.
And secondly, it speaks to political parties and manifestos. We must depart from the political dogma where we only engage in the politics and the narratives of tribalism and regionalism.
And promises that
I want a country
realistic.
where if you tell me that we are rooting out or weeding out corruption, that actually want to engage in non-wastage of public resources, when we say that we want to put our shilling in infrastructure development, constructing of bridges, construction of roads, construction of hospitals, construction of markets, we should see with our own eyes, in our own lifetime, this happening. We've come so far.
I agree.
And slowly and gradually, we are pulling our socks from around the ankles
totally agree.
to the knee point.
Yes.
When it comes to fighting corruption, there has been a greater effort now than it was 15, 20 years or 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. When I see the Asset Recovery Agency making declaration of assets required from corrupt public servants and former public servants, I say that it is a good effort, but much more needs to be done.
Because it's a bit selective,
when I see the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission going for the jugular of the corrupt, I see that we are moving into a greater direction. Noella, when I see, just as much as you do, that now roads are being constructed in this period more than they did or are being constructed during the Moi reign or even Kibaki reign, we are seeing that progressively, regime after regime, we are becoming better as a country in terms of where we are putting our shilling.
We are trying, yes, but also there's the foundation. Are we trying from our local revenue? Are we borrowing too much? Java's development should also not be a burden to future populations or future generations. During this current regime, of course, there's been a hike in debt, okay? Yes, we're doing development, but it will take us time because it will cost us in one way or the other. What is so difficult with African governments harnessing their local revenue streams, Javas? I fail to understand.
It is not a government issue.
Whose issue?
It is a challenge with generating and embracing of ideas. Mm-hmm. When you have leaders without ideas, there is no way you can expect magical development of ideas when they occupy public office. The question is this, Noella. Why is it that we, or the African voter, is averse to leaders without ideas? But if you're to ask Noella, a well-educated, full of ideas, to seek public office, the voter will be shy to embrace you.
Even my relatives will not vote for me,
Correctly.
all of them. Even my friends and my colleagues,
yes,
they won't vote for me.
Exactly. But they'll want to go for a contortionist or an acrobat.
A political cartoon.
Yes. Why is it that the African voter fears ideas? The other thing, for example, and I embrace this idea, when President William Ruto proposed and has now railroaded in place the infrastructure fund to try and shield us from the further exploration of foreign debt, an idea that has not been embraced here for far too long. Other countries have got infrastructure fund in place and sovereign funds in place. Yeah. If you look and carry out a comparative study of countries with the sovereign fund, go to the Scandinavia, you'll realize that their debt portfolio is way lower. And I think I would give accolades to President William Ruto with the idea, the proposition of the infrastructure fund and the sovereign fund. The issue now should be, how do we build up the infrastructure fund, and the sovereign fund, which creates future wealth for what you're calling the future generations.
Exactly, because we are such a practical continent. We want to see if there are roads, let's see the roads. We don't want things to be in the pipeline. We're walking towards Singapore. We don't even know where Singapore is. It's 5 years, elections are next year, Javas.
Noella.
But hold there, Javas. We need to go to that wheel of insight.
Let's do this.
Then we come back.
Okay.
Let's do this. So this is the wheel of insight. We'll ask 3 questions. Wherever you land, we'll pick a card, then we ask you some questions. So take your first spin.
So if it lands on 10, those are 10 questions. Or
No.
card number 10.
We card number 10.
All right.
Javas, where's the energy?
Okay.
Number
Card
2.
number 2.
Wow, number 2. Here. So,
Yeah.
number 2, there are also various cards. So you just pull one card, and I'll ask you something, and you bring it back.
Okay.
Wow, very interesting. Read it.
How can storytelling fight stereotypes about Africa?
Whether it's stereotypes in politics, in private sector, in our communities, how can we fight? Because there's a lot of stereotypes of this continent.
Well, Noella, first, we must know that storytelling depends on 1, the narrative, 2, the voice, 3, the channel, 4, the opportunity, and 5, the necessity to rise to tell that story. The intent must be there.
And most institutions are lacking the genuine intent.
Correct.
It's
And secondly, when Africa and African countries are shy to tell their own stories, when African media fail to tell the African stories, those stories will be told by the Western media
with a wrong
through Western
perspective.
lenses.
Yes.
So I think what is important is for us to ensure that we write our own stories, tell our own stories through our own platforms. But when we are shy to tell our own stories, remember nature abhors vacuum.
Yes.
That vacuum will be explored by the Western media and those stories will be told. The other thing is that how do we shape our narratives? Because it's all in the framing. Today, if anything happens in Africa, it will be the stories of tragedy, stories of death, stories of degradation. If something happens in the West, it will be about projection of the superiority, the power, the influence, and the wealth.
I don't know if you know there's this American influencer, he's called I Show Speed. You may have heard about him. A few weeks ago, he's been doing tours, different countries, in Africa. And when he posted some of these videos, there was a famous video that went viral. Another youth in the US crying, doing a live and crying is like, oh my God, I've always been told to believe that Africa is just flat land with nothing. It's like seeing I Show Speed, show different aspects of Africa, the nature, the people, the culture, the build, and the boy was crying. So I totally agree. Take your second spin, Javats.
Great.
Number 5. Yes. Yeah, we need to take charge of our narrative. We've not been doing it well. We need to.
All right, I'll pick
the one on the edge. Today, I want you to read it again.
How has media shaped Africa's development conversations?
Because we've just been talking about framing. And news framing is very important. So how has it shaped Africa's development conversations?
Well, first I would say that African media have been shy to properly shape the African narrative. Second, depending on Western tools to shape the African narrative. Third, looking at African stories and narratives through the Western lenses.
And not the African lens.
That is the problem. The other thing, the robust venturesomeness in doing the creative, intentional, progressive, proper framing remains lacking. And when African media are dependent on Western tools, when they use the Western tools of analysis to tell the African story, to engage and steer African conversations,
We'll definitely have Western capture.
then we'll be limited.
Exactly. Take another spin. Jabaz.
Consistency.
Consistency. I totally agree.
Okay.
Oh,
let's go
number 8.
Yeah.
Where are you? Number 8. We are here.
Great. Pick this one. What happens when development messages ignore local culture? Now, culture is a people's way of life.
True.
It is important that the messaging, the framing, should not be remote or far removed from a people's way of life. A people's way of life is or constitutes the communities in which they live, the languages, and it's the multiplicity of languages that are in use, the ordinary ways of interaction by way of trade, by way of learning. Then another aspect of culture as a people's way of life is how life continues being and lessons being passed on or transmitted from one generation to another. Today, few families have got the fireplace. Many grandmothers and grandfathers today are well educated, well traveled, well exposed. They tell their stories in a different way.
Very true.
The cultures are changing or adopting to the new ways of life in the 21st century. And so cultures are reshaping. They're being recalibrated. So it's important that in messaging, in the framing, the cultural perspectives, the cultural intuitions, the cultural groundings
should
be considered.
Foundation. I totally agree.
And that's why today, if you want to fight, FGM, you cannot we cannot parachute into a community and demand that FGM, female genital mutilation, ends. You must first of all get to understand, where did it originate from?
Immerse yourself in the setting.
How has it been sustained and why? What are the beneficial insights of some members of the community about the FGM? But what are the detriments that they should be alive to? That messaging should be alive to the cultural mores, cultural lessons, cultural taboos, everything cultural.
Behavior change is a process, but
Correct.
At times, whether it's politics, whether it's NGOs, we're always in a rush to have people see things from our lens, but not immerse ourselves in their settings and tell them things from their own shoes. Have a seat.
Because culture is who we are.
Yes, exactly. Let's talk a bit of geopolitics. Whether it's the US, whether it's Russia, China. It seems to be shaping the African agenda more than how Africans are shaping our own agenda. Is this sustainable? Is it a foundation that we can comfortably say we can build something for future generations when we have a lot of, interference?
I would start by saying that the civil society remains integral to Africa's development for a number of reasons. That with various governance challenges that are self-evident in Africa, with the resource challenges that are self-evident in Africa, with the spaces occupied by the civil society in creating job opportunities for Africa, they remain critical in the day-to-day lives of the African people. When just last year, US President Donald Trump, through the executive order, pronounced death of the USAID, jobs across the African continent were lost in their millions.
And some are yet to recover from that loss.
Yes. So livelihoods were lost by way of only one American government-sponsored funding. What about if the Americas in general, continental Europe, would cut funding to NGOs in Africa? Half of Africa will be jobless. Half of Africa literate.
Sure.
And that's why I'm saying that civil society or NGOs in Africa are integral to the development and the progress and the livelihoods of the African people. And that is why the NGOs continue to shape very many issues in Africa.
And like you say, if it happens, then almost half of jobs in Africa will be lost. And then we weaken our resilience, we weaken households. But are we thinking as Africans, as Africa, are we thinking sustainably? How do we survive in the midst of any future setback? Are we?
I think we are victims of the opportunistic syndrome.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. For instance, we are grappling with the challenges of climate change. Today, if you are to ask across the African countries, how many governments are pumping a percentage of their GDP in climate change intervention, you'll realize that no African country is pumping even anything closer to 5% of its GDP in climate change interventions.
You're waiting for funds from outside to do it.
Exactly.
When it affects us, it will affect our future.
Now, we also know that when it comes to climate change and its effects, the African continent suffers much more than continental Europe or the rest of the world.
Even if we are less polluters,
Correct.
we actually suffer.
And that's why
the repercussions.
We should not seize the opportunity to get financing through the global NGOs for purposes of just oiling the wheels of survival.
But plan for the future.
We must be intentional.
Yeah.
Now, look at the support that goes to the education sector from global NGOs. If that support is wiped off, how many kids from poor families will continue their education?
What if that support was never there in the first place?
Correct.
Don't you think we'll reinvent and look for solutions?
When it comes to resources that are in Africa, they are replete. Africa is replete of resources.
Preach.
But also the instrumentation of conversion of those resources into productive value, creation of employment, and seeing those resources as an opportunity for the collective growth and not as reservoirs of beneficial interest for just a few bourgeoisie or the bourgeois interests, then things will start changing.
I agree. Thank you, Javas. Behind you, again, there's a canvas that sets the agenda for Africa's development. This is a canvas of like-minded people. People have a dream for Africa. People have passion. People are creating change in their spaces in their own different way, big or small. And I'll invite you to go close to the canvas because as you see, there are a number of people already there. We are hoping it will fill up this year so that we're able to roll it up and becomes part of our decor. I don't know what corner you'll be focusing. So where will you go, Javas? New waters?
I think I'll...
Nice, clean waters?
It's a new year. It's the first show of the year.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go to the new page.
There you go. It will be really an honor. Let's have your name and your signature. You're committing to be a champion of Africa's development.
I write my name first or
whichever.
Okay.
Yeah, whichever way. I like everyone has a different style when it comes to the canvas, a different message, a different way of committing to be a champion. This is beautiful.
I think I've got a poor handwriting.
Africans think it is the age of reason. Javas, but his middle name is Arafat. Javas Arafat Bigambo. Javas, join me back here. Thank you so much.
Great.
We're really glad to have you as one of our DevCom champions. And today, because I know you're also a student of communication, like myself, and you've been among the mentors in the industry. So I'll hand over the outro button. You'll give us the parting shot and we close it for the new year.
Well, like I've said here, Africans think it is the age of reason. But let us choose our words, choose our ideas properly, and share those ideas in a very impactful way. Because responsibility brings maturity. Let us move forward with responsible talk, responsible messaging, responsible ideas. Thank you, Noella.
Wow, this has been DevCom, the first episode of 2026. What an honor to have Javas Arafat Bigambo.
Thank you so much.
He's a scholar of politics, a scholar of governance, on the continent. And we are so glad you've set the pace. We promise you from the next episode, we'll keep up the momentum. We'll keep up the fire. We have something for you.
Oh.
DevCom is interesting. When you see we try, it's the fire, it's the drum, then gifting was very central in African families. Even if it had to be sweet potatoes, someone will run to the farm, get you sweet potatoes, or a chicken if you come from like my community. There's always a way of just saying thank you because it's the thought that counts. So from DevCom Africa, we have something for you for the new year.
Great. Thank you so much. It's the thought that counts, and I count the thought.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please keep watching. Thank you to our audiences, our partners. If you have a remarkable champion of Africa's development, you want him or her to appear on the set, our email address is, below the screen. Please write to us and join the DevCom Africa community. Until next time, asante and Happy New Year.